Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of CyberCast. Today we have Katie with us. Hello, Katie.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Okay, so Katie is a WordPress and WooCommerce expert who actually focuses on websites that focus on customer first experience. So, Katie, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, so I am the founder and CEO at Barn2 Plugins. We sell mostly WooCommerce plugins and some that are just WordPress and not WooCommerce. We started off as an agency building websites for clients, and then we took that experience and put that into our plugins instead.
Okay, so since you have a lot of experience with plugins, let's start with somewhere around that. Do you think plugins play an important role in creating a customer first experience?
Yes, because if you install, so I think we're talking specifically about WooCommerce and
Yeah.
e-commerce customers. So if you install WooCommerce as it comes, it has everything you need to sell online, but it's not necessarily tailored around your specific customer. And it can't be because every type of product has different types of customers and different products appeal to customers in different ways. The customer journey probably needs to change and what they see on the screen, depending on the type of customer. And just with default WooCommerce, that's a fairly generic experience, but it's not going to be tailored to the type of products and customers that you have. And plugins can help with that because you can install plugins that have specific maybe layouts or features that appeal to the relevant product and customers.
Okay. So what do you think it really means to put customers' needs first in e-commerce environment with respect to WooCommerce?
For me, it's about thinking from scratch what is going to make the customer most likely to buy my products. So that really means putting yourself in the mind of the customer and thinking, so customer lands on the site, what are they expecting? What are they looking for? The goal here is that you win and the customer wins because the customer wants to buy something that is useful for them and you want to get that sale. So by improving the customer journey, creating a win-win situation. And an example I really like of that is, well, there's loads, but is the layout of the shop page. Normally in WooCommerce, you've got probably a 3-column layout with big images. You've got the product name, price, and an add to cart button. Or if there's variations, it will be a select options buttons taking you to a different page. And that just doesn't work for some products. Let's imagine a store selling something really technical like light bulbs or nails or something like that. It doesn't matter what the product looks like particularly. What matters is what it does, the specification. And none of that information is on that default shop page. And so the customer's having to go to a separate page for every single light bulb to learn about how many watts it is, what shade of white it is, whatever. Then they go back, then they click on another one. And that's not thinking about the customer. So one example solution for that is that we built a plugin called WooCommerce Product Table, which lists the products in a more structured table layout on the shop page with columns for, say, the different product attributes. So you've got a small image because it doesn't matter what the light bulb looks like, really. And then you've got a product for the different energy ratings and amounts of power and the color temperature, I think it's called, all that kind of thing. And you've got extra things like the ability to choose a quantity or variations all on the shop page. And that is about putting the customer first because the customer can get everything they want and they can really compare those light bulbs all on the same page without clicking anywhere else.
Okay. So building on that example that we just gave, see, the example that you gave for light bulbs is a very technical one, right? But what if someone who is not very well versed in what the specifications are of a light bulb and wants to get it? I mean, uh, I cannot tell the difference between two light bulbs, even if somebody would put me at a gunpoint. So if there's a non-technical audience, like 20% audience is non-technical and 80% is technical, how do you find the perfect balance so that both of them can get the work done?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, if I was buying light bulbs, I would probably ask ChatGPT and then it would probably give me incorrect information. I'd order the wrong thing. Anyway, so to do that on a WooCommerce store, there's several options. One would be to have a prominent buying guide and having a very obvious link to that so that that would walk people through the process. And a more interactive option I really like would be to kind of use product filters, but rethink your filters into a kind of a quiz almost to help you choose your light bulb. So we've got a plugin called WooCommerce Product Filters, which works with the product table plugin. And you can add any kinds of filters for different attributes or whatever, and that narrows down the list. But the clever way to use it in this scenario would be to rename your filters, things like what color light do you want? And then you'd have little color swatches of like different levels of yellow and white or something, and they click on that visually, and then that would just show the right colors. What is the code of the light bulb you need to replace, like E14 or whatever light bulbs are called in different parts of the world? And then that would narrow it down to those bulbs. And so you'd use information they have access to, like take your current bulb out, look at it, what's the code on it? And then you create filters for those so it narrows down the list of products.
Yeah, you don't make it into a quiz game. That sounds nice. Okay, so even up to so many e-commerce websites available today, why do you think most developers or most WooCommerce stores fail to deliver the right experience for customers?
I think the key thing is that they are failing to tailor their store for the type of customer that they have and the type of products they're selling. So they install WooCommerce, dead easy, it's free. WordPress is free apart from your hosting. So you just set it all up as it comes and that's it. And that's fine, like I said, but it's not tailored. You might be selling, imagine a grid of like all these light bulbs and they all look the same, don't they? That's not how you buy them. And yet there are differences. There's lots of examples like that where you're not tailoring it. Even things like the final stages of the purchase process, so your cart and your checkout, you just install it as it comes, and that means the customer has to visit the product page, a cart page, a checkout page. It's a long journey, and there are plugins that you can use to create one-page checkouts. You can skip the cart and go straight to the checkout. We've got a plugin called WooCommerce Fast Cart, which puts the cart and checkout in a pop-up on the same
Yeah,
page.
same.
There's some products need a multi-stage checkout because you need so much information from the customer. So there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. The thing they get wrong is just setting it up as it comes and not looking at what tools will tailor their site to the customer.
Okay. Um, so if we keep aside the customers and the target audience for a product, and we talk about one non-negotiable thing that should be uniform across all WooCommerce websites, what would you say that thing is?
Oh, good question. Um, Probably something that is universal, like good performance. WooCommerce can be very performant. It has a reputation for being slow, which I don't think is fair. The key is to use good hosting. I really like managed WordPress hosting. We use Kinster ourselves, but there's plenty of good managed hosts that they do all the server management and everything for you. And it's so optimized for performance compared to cheap shared hosting. So I say universally, the store needs to load quickly. Otherwise, people are going to bounce. They're not going to stay on your site. You're not going to rank in search engines because they look at performance. So I'd say something like that is, regardless of what you're selling, universally is important.
Okay. Uh, so if we talk about universal thing, what how important do you think the checkout page experience, like the final checkout page, when you have loaded everything into the cart, you have put in your information, and then you add your payment details, and then you click checkout. Do you think it should be based on one page, or because I've seen a lot of brands have moved to two-page checkouts, like one for personal details and other for card details? What do you think is a better approach? Because I think if for me, I would 100% be more comfortable if it's all on the single page.
Yeah, I personally prefer one page. The only reason I would understand doing multiple pages is if it's a particularly extended checkout. Like, let's say you're subscribing to a vegetable box on Steam or something where you're going to, or a recipe box where you're going to pick things each week. And there might be lots of options about your subscription on the checkout, which would be a very custom experience, not default WooCommerce. Something like that, perhaps it would take you through your preferences step by step, which is basically making it way more than a checkout. But for a normal checkout, I'd rather it was just as quick as possible, which means on the same page or even not in a page. It could be in a pop-up, like I said. So you're still on the shop page. You never leave the shop page in the entire journey, which is reassuring to the customer because they know where they are all the time. And I also am a big believer in shortening checkouts. Like WooCommerce by default will have lots of address fields and also a phone number field. And in the new WooCommerce block checkout, you can edit those fields. In the older checkout, you needed a plugin. You don't even anymore. So you can remove any address fields that you don't need for delivery, or perhaps that your payment provider doesn't require if it's, say, a digital product. And you can also remove the phone number field if you have no reason to be phoning that customer.
Okay. Okay. Um, so coming towards plugins, what are some useful plugins that you suggest for for new people, for people who are new to this WooCommerce website? What are some useful plugins that can help them create a customer experience for their users?
Um, it depends on the how many products they've got and the type of products. So I think there aren't necessarily any must-have plugins for all stores. So if they have more than, say, 20 products, then probably WooCommerce product filter is a must-have because it just makes it so much easier for people to find products. If you only got 3 products, don't install a filter plugin. You don't need any kind of searching for your products or filtering tools. So it very much depends. The layout of your shop and product pages should change depending on the type of product. So one useful plugin would be anything that allows you to modify the layout of the product page, because WooCommerce hasn't yet introduced blocks for the product page. So that you could use a plugin that would do that. And then you can create a more flexible product page layout that is designed around your product. So for example, if you wanted video to be first and foremost, you could design it accordingly.
Okay. Okay, so in your experience, what can you tell me what are some of the biggest pain points that shoppers face in the typical WooCommerce stores, and how do you think business owners can solve these problems?
I think customer experience is a big pain point because of people just setting up WooCommerce as it was designed. And uh, often the shop becomes an afterthought. For example, it might just have a shop link in the navigation. Well, if you think about it, shop's a really important part of the website. Maybe the whole navigation structure should be that rather than home, about, shop, contact. It should be like home, men's clothes, women's clothes, whatever you're selling. And so that reduces a click, doesn't it, if you think about it, because you're getting straight to the types of products you want. So it's about what are your priorities, what do you want the customer to do it, and design your navigation and your homepage, everything around that. Make it obvious for the other.
So how do you identify which parts of the customer journey needs improvement? I mean, do you look at the analytics, the feedback, the behavior, or something? Is there something else?
So what aspects need improving? I would say you should ideally find a customer or just a family member to visit the website for you and say, try and buy something and watch over their shoulder and see what goes wrong. But alternatively, you could do something like just do it yourself. So you go on the website, you imagine being a customer, which is really difficult because you know too much about the website, you know your products, but try if you haven't got someone to do it for you, and think about every single thing that they're doing. Is this optimal? Is this intuitive? If I'd never seen this before, would I know what I needed? What information do I need about this product? Is that clearly visible, or am I having to visit multiple pages? How do I compare products before I've made a decision? Ask yourself all of those questions. And there's also things like heat mapping tools that you can use to analyze how people are using your sites, which can be useful.
Okay. Uh, I want to ask something on the question on the answer that you just gave. Do you actually think a product owner or somebody who builds a website themselves can do these type of checks for a website, or is it better if we get like a group of 10 or 20 people in a room and get them to test the website? What do you think is a better approach?
The latter is definitely better, and there are website services that can do it for
Yeah,
you, such
that's what
as
I'm yeah.
usertesting.com. I'm just trying to think about what's realistic. The majority of WooCommerce stores tend to be quite slow, not slow, sorry, small. They tend to be fairly low revenue, maybe not huge resources.
Yeah, lower
But
resources.
there are huge companies using WooCommerce, but the average one is not that big. So I don't think they are actually going to get a personal focus group together. In that case, I'd say just get somebody to do it or use a service like usertesting.com. So depends on your budget and resources.
Yeah, I think the bigger part of WooCommerce are actually startups or small businesses, right? From what I've seen or from what I've learned about WooCommerce, I think a bigger part of their customer base is small businesses or startup owners, individual people.
Yeah, that's my understanding based on the data. And that's probably just how numbers work generally, that there's a lot of smaller businesses. There's a lot of smaller businesses, which may or may not succeed over time. And the smaller percentage are the successful ones that grow. I think that's just how business works. But I do believe WooCommerce attracts that generally because it's so accessible to new entrants and
And
what
easy to use.
products is
Super easy.
free.
I-
Sorry?
I'm saying it's super easy to use. Like a non-technical person can easily set up the website in less than an hour, I think, on WooCommerce.
Definitely, yeah. So that makes it really accessible for small businesses. And of course, big businesses can take WooCommerce to the next level. You can make it as advanced as you want, as bespoke as you want. So it's not a limitation, but it does mean that it attracts a lot of smaller stores who maybe aren't doing really professional user testing, but they should still think about the customer journey from the user's experience and plan accordingly.
Okay. Okay, so I'd also love to know a real-time example where you made a small UX change and it led to a very big improvement in a customer engagement or sales project or something.
I'm going to go back to one from when I was still building websites, and we did a website for a car cover company. And well, we rebuilt their website. Their previous website had a kind of a normal homepage and then a separate product page, but they only sold one product. So I thought, well, that makes no sense. Why would the user have to click through to a product page when the whole website should be that one product? So instead, we made the homepage essentially the product page with the add to cart buttons and everything. And the other pages on the site were more things like technical information and usage instructions, whatever. But the homepage became that key sales page. And the reason that they previously had it like that was because they just set up WooCommerce as it comes. You design a homepage, you add a product page, one product per item that you sell. So they've done that and they haven't thought, hang on, I don't even need this product page. I just need to design the homepage accordingly.
Okay, sorry. So when you're designing a new plugin or a feature, how do you make sure that the plugin actually solves a problem that is present rather than you know, just it be a cool idea? Because sometimes when you're working on something new, it's very easy to get carried away by something we think is the new thing or something that could go viral as compared to actually solving a customer pain point.
That's particularly difficult when you're first getting started with selling plugins because you don't necessarily have access to the customers who are likely to be using it. It's quite easy for us now because we have so many customers using our plugins, and most of our new plugins and features are based on requests from existing customers. So, for example, we built our WooCommerce product options plugin, having received lots of feedback from our customers who were using our other plugins with the official WooCommerce product add-ons plugin. So we knew what the pain points with that official extension were, and therefore we knew how to design a product options plugin which was better and had a more the options that were missing, like conditional logic, minimum, maximum quantities, more visual option types, like being able to click on an image to select something. Those sorts of things we knew from our customers. But when you're starting, you don't have that luxury of people asking for something. So I like to get product ideas when I haven't got customer feedback from things like online forums. Our first ever plugin was called WooCommerce Protected Categories, and we got the idea from a WooCommerce forum where people were asking for a way to password protect categories in WooCommerce. So you can research online, and a lot of feature request boards, like the ones you see on the various WooCommerce.com pages, have numbers of votes visible. So you can see how many people are voting for each feature and think, oh, would that be a good opportunity for a new product? And there's already evidence that people would use it because of the number of votes.
Okay. So from your pool of plugins, what is one underrated plugin that you wish would be more mainstream?
Um, Everybody thinks we're an e-commerce company, but our most popular plugin is actually a document library plugin. So I would love people to kind of know us more for that. It sort of doesn't fit with the rest of our range, which is weird, but it does sell way more than anything else we do. And it's like people find it when they're Googling WordPress document library or asking AI these days, of course. And but I would like that to be have a general awareness, because a lot of different websites and e-commerce stores would benefit from a resource library of any type. So for an e-commerce site, that might be technical documentation on their various products. They might create a specification library or something. So any type of website could benefit, but people tend to only know it exists when they already have a particular pain point and are Googling for that.
Okay. What is that one common misconception that you have came across from website owners? What they think that a customer wants rather than what a customer actually needs?
Every possible type of social sharing. So I've seen websites with 4 different types of social sharing buttons on the same page. There's like floating ones, but there's ones at the top of the post. There's ones that look different at the bottom of the post. They'll be in the sidebar. They just install every plugin going. And that's not thinking about the customer. It's not thinking, well, one, is a customer even likely to share my content, which honestly rarely happens on a website? We used to have social sharing and nobody ever did it, so we removed it. And then if they are going to share that type of content, at what point of consuming the content will they share it? So don't just put it everywhere. Think of what point of their journey. Like if it's a blog post, maybe it's at the end they decide to share or something like that when they finish reading. Actually, yeah, I will share it. That was good. You don't just put it everywhere.
Yeah, I think when it comes to e-commerce store, especially if you're selling shoes or clothes, something like that, I don't think anybody would like to share it on the social media. So absolutely
No.
no point. Yeah, I agree. Um, okay. So while we're making readjustments to the website, I mean, in the case that you just mentioned, the social sharing buttons. So let's suppose I'm a website owner and I want to make readjustments based on what the customer journey is like. I'm seeing nobody's trying to click on a certain button on my webpage. At that point, how important do you think it is to track your customer journey to find those points, or is it best to go by the data that you would gather from your website?
I think it's a combination of data and instinct. You use websites yourself, you buy online, I'm sure. So you kind of have those instincts as to what works for you. So use common sense and experience. And also, I do really like A/B testing to see what works, particularly in e-commerce, because you can actually track the impact on sales. So you can use a hosted platform like convert.com, or there's a plugin called A/B Split Test, which we use on our site, which is a lot cheaper actually than using a SaaS for your A/B testing. And either way, you can set up tests to see the impacts of adding, removing, rewording a button, and then you can see, does that affect sales? Are customers clicking on it? And things like that. The only caveat is that you need a lot of data to get to statistical significance on an A/B test. So it's best to say run one test across all of your products. So the same button change on all products. That way you will get to statistical significance faster. Whereas if you run a different test on each product, it's just going to take forever to get any real data.
Okay, so between WooCommerce and other alternatives like Shopify, why are you more inclined towards WooCommerce rather than others?
We are currently in the process of expanding into Shopify, I should say. But we've always been WooCommerce because it's we always WordPress came first, really, that we discovered early on in our journey of building websites that WordPress is by far the best way to build any type of website. It's not just for blogging, it's for business sites, e-commerce, membership, events, everything. And we built all of those different types of website for clients. And then when we moved into selling plugins, we naturally gravitated to WooCommerce, largely because people make money from WooCommerce. So it's easier to sell plugins that actually makes people money than just something that looks nice on their website, for example. So we've gone from there really, but we are currently in the process of expanding to Shopify, which is really interesting because it's an opportunity that I'm I'm finding myself using my WooCommerce knowledge to inform my Shopify plans. And then when I learn something about Shopify, I'm like, oh, that would be good in WooCommerce. So then I put that learning into my WooCommerce plugins. So I'm finding it really valuable to have knowledge across the two.
Yeah, because what I've noticed between Shopify and WooCommerce, I think Shopify is slightly more easy for beginners than WooCommerce is. I could
In
be wrong,
some ways,
but that's what I've noticed. Shopify is like easier to set up than WooCommerce is. I think it's less technical and more based on themes, on built up themes than WooCommerce is. Do you agree?
it's a big disadvantage for WooCommerce that it has to be self-hosted and part of WordPress. So there are some inherent challenges in setting up a WooCommerce site, which are not Woo's fault at all. It just means you've got to figure out what self-hosted WordPress is, get a hosting provider, and only then do you install
Yeah.
WooCommerce, which has pretty good onboarding and everything. But then even the WooCommerce link might be way down in the admin if you've got loads of plugins and the whole site is not built around WooCommerce. And in contrast with Shopify, it's all about that e-commerce experience. You just sign up to Shopify. They are your host. They are the product and it's e-commerce first. So that inherently reduces the learning curve. But since I got into Shopify, I've been interested to learn that nearly all successful Shopify stores have a web developer. People are not very often building their own Shopify sites and finding success, which wasn't my guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so have you seen any trends where you see stores they're over engineering the experience and they're actually making it worse for the customer?
I think that goes back to my point about social sharing, that more widely,
Yeah.
you see a lot of people adding plugins for the sake of it. An example would be if you installed my WooCommerce product filter plugin when you've only got 5 products, you don't need it. So people might think, oh, that sounds really cool. And they install a plugin and then another one and then another one, and they're not thinking about the customer and whether that will actually enhance the experience. And then you end up in a mess, and websites should be simple and clear.
So about that, if you could, this is my last question. That if you could make a magical change to one thing about the average WooCommerce store experience, would it be according to you? Something that you would want to do?
I would love them to somehow overcome the challenge of it being the WordPress hosting, etc. challenge I mentioned a minute ago, that Woo isn't the main focus of the store. Maybe there could be like a shop mode in WooCommerce or something like that that would make it the top of the admin, to completely change the dashboard of the WordPress admin to be your store data rather than events of WordCamps around the world or whatever there is, or draft posts. The sorts of things that are there now are not relevant to a WooCommerce store typically. So I would have WooCommerce much more built into WordPress so that that becomes the focal experience as it is with Shopify.
Okay, so even though it has been a really good, insightful session, just a few things to wind it up overall. So let's suppose if a customer would come, what do you think if a customer would come up to you and say three things that they absolutely hate in a WooCommerce website? What do you think they would be?
They may well say that they load slowly because a lot of websites don't use good hosting. Like I said, that's not Woo's fault, but a lot of WooCommerce stores load slowly because of things like hosting, or just not doing essential tasks like optimizing their product images properly or something like that. So I think a lot would complain about that. One thing I can always tell when I'm buying from a low budget WooCommerce store, shall we say, because I recognize the emails. I don't want to recognize the emails. I want the email to look like the shop I ordered from and not like a WooCommerce template. So things like that are giveaways, that it just looks like you just install WooCommerce in 5 minutes and you've not modified the emails or changed the header color to match your brand or anything. So I think that is unprofessional.
Yeah, but
And
it's important in the world today, I think.
yeah, I'm struggling to think of a third because it depends, but probably just the experience being too long, too many clicks, too many pages, like having to visit many products in order to compare each one back to the shop page, back to the product, back to the shop page, instead of being able to compare them side by side, choose quantities and add straight to the cart.
Yeah, I think for me it would be the third point. Okay, if I really like something, I would sort of actually wait for 5 minutes for it to load. But after it has been loaded and then I have to make like 100 clicks to get to the cart page, I think it's no, I cannot be that patient.
Mm,
Okay.
definitely.
So thank you so much, Katie, for joining us today. It has been an amazing session with you. We got to learn a lot about WooCommerce, and I'm sure everybody else loved it too. So,
Thank you so much.
anything else you would like to say, Elliot?
No, not particularly. I think it's been really interesting and covered lots of good points. Uh, Anyone wanting to know about our plugins can go to barn2.com, or you can follow me personally on Twitter or LinkedIn at Katie Keys Barn2.
Okay. Thank you so much, Katie. It was nice talking to you. Bye.